Coming up on Mountain News at 6, we hear from both candidates for governor as we are just 1 week away from Election Day. And the KHSAA commissioner discusses the importance of having ambulances at sporting events after one football game was delayed last Friday due to there not being one on demand.
And we are cold in the short term, but more 60s are looming later this week. Those details coming up as Mountain News at 6 starts now.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 6.
We are now just a week out from Election Day, and for the last 2 days, both gubernatorial candidates have made several campaign stops here in the mountains. Today, Attorney General and GOP candidate for governor Daniel Cameron was in Pikeville, London, and Hazard. WYMT's Olivia Calfee was at his stop in Hazard and talked with him and some of his Republican Party supporters about why he is the right man for the job.
Tuesday was day 2 of Attorney General and Republican candidate for Governor Daniel Cameron's Fight for Kentucky bus tour, assuring his supporters that he is the right fit for Kentucky.
It's because I'm going to reflect the values of the men, women, and children of all 120 counties. And, you know, it's important to have a governor who stands with you in a crisis, whether that's flooding or tornadoes in the West, but you need a governor that's going to stand with you every single day of the year.
With a slew of supporters at the Big Blue Smokehouse in Hazard, Cameron addressed the room and once again touched on his plans to eliminate the state's income tax.
It is harder to buy groceries, it's harder to buy gas, your utility bills going up, so the responsible thing to do is to have a governor that wants to put more money back in your pocket. And that's what we'll do when we eliminate Kentucky's income tax.
Some Republican lawmakers were in the room showing their support. Senator Brandon Smith says he feels Cameron will do what is right for Eastern Kentucky and believes more needs to be done after last year's flood.
We should have put this money on the ground much sooner, and it's just not happened. And now we're going to be 27 degrees tonight, and I will tell you what I will be thinking about. Those families out there that I feel like got let down by this administration.
And Congressman Hal Rogers says he also stands with Cameron.
I thought it was important for me to let everyone know where I stand. He will work. That's his record. He's smart, he's articulate, and he knows how to fight for Kentucky.
Cameron's next stops will be in Central Kentucky on Wednesday. In Hazard, Olivia Calfee, WYMT Mountain News.
Now, Governor Andy Beshear is also making stops across the state as part of his Go Vote tour. WYMT's Chandler Wilcox talked to Beshear about his message to Eastern Kentuckians and heard from some folks about why they are voting for him.
Beshear was welcomed by a crowd packed into a building in downtown Hazard. He was joined by Senior Advisor Rocky Atkins, wife Brittany, and fellow Democrats running for state offices.
The people of this region have seen me time and time again, and we are going to get this done.
Beshear spoke about accomplishments through the last 4 years. One of his main points was helping revitalize the region after the July 2022 flood.
I care about each and every one of these families and our chance to do more than rebuild, but really to revitalize, to build entire new neighborhoods and to bring hundreds upon hundreds of new jobs.
For some folks, that is a big reason they are supporting the governor in his re-election campaign.
He or Rocky or somebody from his administration has been here pretty much every week doing something related to flood relief.
Small business owner Mandy Scheffel voiced a similar compliment, along with saying his presence is always welcoming.
He's very personable, yeah, and relatable, and I like that about him. He's approachable. Anytime that I've been in a space where he was, he gives that.
Beshear urged supporters to knock on doors and get others out to vote as he looks to be in office for another 4 years. In Hazard, Chandler Wilcox, WYMT Mountain News.
Governor Beshear will have a few more stops in the mountains before Election Day, including Prestonsburg and Pikeville. It's been 4 years since Governor Andy Beshear and Attorney General Daniel Cameron were sworn into office. Cameron earned the Republican nomination for Attorney General with 53% of the vote back in the 2019 May primary. He later made history in November, becoming the first Republican AG in more than 70 years to be elected to a statewide office. At the time, his campaign website promised to depoliticize the office and enhance the AG's presence outside of Frankfort.
Who was going to get back to the bread and butter basics of being the chief law enforcement officer and defending and enforcing the laws that are passed by the General Assembly and signed by the governor.
In 2019, Cameron would replace outgoing Attorney General Andy Beshear. Beshear took his party's nomination in May. His opponent, Rocky Atkins, became his senior advisor when Beshear narrowly beat incumbent Governor Matt Bevin in the general election later that year. Beshear's platform focused heavily on bolstering education and health care reform.
After tonight, we move forward with every other Kentucky citizen as Team Kentucky.
Political scientists say the two have used the ascension in their careers and visibility to pave a path in politics moving forward. We'll have more about what's happened and maybe has not happened in the last 4 years coming up at 11. A state audit of a county clerk's financial practices found several accounting and bookkeeping errors. In a release from State Auditor Mike Harmon's office, Estill County Clerk Brian Crow overspent available funds, failed to segregate duties, and there was also significant monetary miscalculations, among other issues. The audit is being referred to the Department of Local Government for further review.
Well, as we go into your Tuesday evening, we are tracking some clearing skies, also some cool weather. Here's a live look overlooking Triangle Park in downtown Hazard, and you can see we are clear but chilly. That temperature down to 48 degrees right now over in Perry County. Most of us in the upper 40s and lower 50s at this hour, up to 51 for Manchester, 48 for Hazard, and 47 for Jackson, also Irvin and Pikeville at this hour. So we are cool, and some more cool weather is on the way, especially after sunset. So if you have plans to trick-or-treat, be sure to have a warm costume and bundle up as you walk out the door. Up on the radar right now, we are dry, and notice those clouds continue to clear as we go into this evening. But as we zoom out, we are tracking a weather system close to Chicago, producing some snow flurries, also some light showers close to Cincinnati. Now, the precipitation from this, for most of us, will stay off to the north. Maybe a small chance of a flurry down to the I-64 corridor. But again, for most of us, we stay dry but cold as we go into tonight. Those lows back in the 20s. So the big story tonight, also by Wednesday night, possibly a hard freeze before some 60s on the way by Friday, also into the weekend. Those details coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, November definitely starting on a colder note. Thank you. 2 men are facing charges for their role in a theft case in McCreary County. It happened yesterday in the Pine Knot community. Sheriff's deputies responded to a complaint about a generator and an air compressor being stolen from a job site. After an investigation, Ronnie Ellis and Aaron Chambers were found and taken into custody. They were taken to the Knox County Detention Center. Police say the stolen items were recovered and returned to their owner. A Lexington high school football player suffered a knee injury on the field during last Friday's game. Our sister station was there, saying the game was delayed by nearly 45 minutes as the crowd waited for an ambulance to arrive. Samantha Valentino takes a look at the district's policy regarding ambulances.
I think regardless of the sport, you'd like to be able to get the quickest care you can for a student. Or if somebody in the stands or anybody else if they have an incident. But you know, it's just as prudent as you can be, and yet within the resources you have.
According to the Herald Leader, in 2017, Fayette County Public Schools had a contract with AMR Standby Services to have an ambulance on site for any football game where 2 Fayette County schools played each other. The contract was for just under $9,000. An FCPS spokesperson told the paper that contract would change in 2018 to have an ambulance presence at every home football game played in the county, with a projected budget of just over $17,000. FCPS does not currently have a policy regarding ambulances at games, so we asked them, why not?
They told us there is, quote, no need for a policy. They said funding is not an issue and explained that FCPS schools are within close proximity to fire stations. Looking at a map, all of the high schools are within roughly 2 miles and 5 minutes of a Lexington fire station.
Well, it's recommended that they have an ambulance there.
Julian Tackett is the commissioner of the Kentucky High School Athletic Association. He says the KHSAA does not require ambulances to be present at high school football games.
In the best of all worlds, you have an ambulance there and you have a certified or licensed athletic trainer at every event you do.
FCPS says they do have medical emergency aid training and UK medical staff on site at games, and that, coupled with the locations of the schools in relation to fire stations, puts them, quote, in a good spot to provide aid when needed for student athletes. In Lexington, Samantha Valentino, WKYT.
We now know the funeral arrangements for a firefighter killed in a crash this past weekend. The visitation for Lieutenant Regina Huffman will take place Thursday at 7 p.m. at Walker Funeral Home Chapel in Hyden. Her funeral will be on Friday at 1 p.m. also at the funeral home. Huffman served the Coon Creek Volunteer Fire Department in Leslie County. She was just 39 years old.
Well, we are tracking some frigid weather for this Halloween. Your forecast on the way after this break. Plus,
the University of Pikeville highlights the humans behind its humanities program.